Is motion blur or film grain a thing? Turn that to off, okay?
On August 12th, 2022, Spider-Man Remastered was officially released on Steam. As of August 17th, 2022, I have 100%ed Spider-Man Remastered. Okay, so technically as of writing this, I still have to go through the game one more time in New Game Plus to get 100%, but I'm gonna do that another time and just write the script while the game is still fresh in my head. Now, keeping in mind that I beat the main story, all side content, and all the DLCs for this game in the matter of 5 days, I must have really enjoyed it, right? You think I liked a game I played? Yeah, it was pretty good. Spider-Man was released in 1982 for the Atari 2600... Wait, wrong one. Spider-Man was released in 1995 for the Sega... Wait. Spider-Man was released in 2002 following the... Okay, one second. Spider-Man was released in 2018 for the PS4, so I'm definitely late to the party, but I still can't get a PS5, and I'm not buying a PS4 when the 5 is out. In a year or two. So I only happened to play this game at all because Sony has finally begun porting their games to Steam, and considering the game has a pretty good launch by the looks of it and cost me $80, what the f- There better be 80 hours of content in this game. And in fact, this isn't the only Spider-Man game I played this year, because around the start of 2022, I played through Spider-Man Web of Shadows. And this game was good, especially for being released in 2008. I was forced to play with mouse and keyboard though, as the Windows version didn't have native controller support, so I wanted to go through the new Spider-Man game while looking back at Web of Shadows to make some comparisons. Now when it comes to Spider-Man, the coolest thing you have going for you when using the Marvel license is the world that he lives in, bordering on the line between street level and big time heroes with an extensive rogues gallery. And I'll give this game props when it comes to the antagonists, because they finally actually made you fight the Sinister Six. You get to go up against Electro, Vulture, Rhino, Scorpion, Mr. Negative, and Doc Ock. But not ever at once. I understand this, of course, as how are you supposed to fight 6 bosses at the same time, but there is a cutscene where all 6 of them whoop Spider-Man's ass, and it would have been cool to have a section with a fight that you're supposed to lose, or maybe you start fighting one and then more come until it's too much, and when you die, the cutscene plays. Or to have a section of the game dedicated to going between 1 or 2 of the bosses in quick succession. Now, when you do fight these guys, the boss fights are 2-on-1, where you can even get them to accidentally attack each other, which was pretty cool. And this combat, man, is pretty good. I can't say I have many complaints when it came to the actual gameplay. It felt very fluid and continuous. The finishers did become pretty annoying with how slow some of them are by the end of the game. I found myself jumping before doing them specifically to get the shortest one each time. You can get people up in the air and fight them and web them up, then you can throw objects around people like a wrecking ball back into guys' faces. This right here is fun. However, this is not the whole game, and you may think I'm talking about web swinging around the city for traversal, but no. When it comes to Spider-Man, everyone likes MJ, right? But no one wants to play as MJ in a Spider-Man game. There are 5 sections in the main game and 1 extra in the DLC where you play as MJ sneaking around or telling Spider-Man to take out certain guys instead of just playing as Spider-Man yourself to take them out. You also gotta play as Miles Morales, and no, not when he's Spider-Man either, when he's just himself. These sections of the game are boring. There is one cool one with Miles where out of nowhere it turns into a horror game where you're hiding from Rhino. This was pretty cool. Puzzles were another part of the game that came as a huge disconnect to me. There are 3 main puzzles throughout the game, and I don't mind the little wave ones for the towers, the little line one, that was okay. But who the hell actually enjoys these weird tube ones? You know, even the developers think this is boring when they give you an actual option to just skip all the puzzles outright. Overall, I think me completing the game in its entirety says enough, but I do hope with the upcoming sequel they fix all the problems made in this one. Specifically the terrible puzzles, the MJ and Miles sections, and some of these side missions and collectibles were just kinda boring. The backpacks do have a little random exposition to them with Peter describing the backstory to the items you find. Now, why is this important? Because Spider-Man is keeping Sandman inside a test tube against his will.
Still not sure if opening this would set the Sandman free, but I'm in no hurry to find out.
I mean, he's conscious in there, right? Now, outside of these simple fixes, this Spider-Man game did kind of fail to floor me in any way. This isn't a problem per se, but when a game can make me stop and go, oh, shit. And this is where Web of Shadows comes in. My favorite moment in this game is when you're fighting a bunch of symbiotes with Wolverine at a church. Then when you beat them, Wolverine gets venomized and you have to fight a venomized Wolverine. Now all I'm saying, is Venom is in the next game. And getting to fight Venomized Spider-Man villains again would be pretty cool. Speaking of Wolverine, while playing the new game, when I saw mention of Hell's Kitchen in Harlem, I was kinda hoping to run into Daredevil or Luke Cage, considering looking back at Web of Shadows, having people like Wolverine or Luke Cage or Black Widow appear helps ground the game into the universe that it exists in. Meanwhile, in the new game, while there are mentions of these heroes through collectibles and random dialogue, it still feels like Spider-Man's the only hero that exists in New York, despite Avengers Tower being right there. Web of Shadows also offered something that I never thought I'd need in a Spider-Man game. Choice. You get to choose whether or not to give in to the symbiote and do some evil shit, or not and remain classic Spider-Man throughout the story. This also gives you the option to just straight up murder people. This kind of optional storytelling would be really cool to see in a modern day Spider-Man game, but I'ma be honest and say I don't think it's gonna happen anytime soon. Web of Shadows did a great job mirroring the comics by actually making the symbiote suit tempting to use as the player because it has much cooler moves than the regular one. As well as switching between the two suits is seamless and allows you to completely change your entire moveset in a matter of seconds. In the new Spider-Man, each new suit you unlock grants a new kind of super ability, which was a pretty cool addition, and the rest of the combat moves can be unlocked through a skill tree, which Web of Shadows also did. But I mean, spanning 3 upgrades of the same thing, disarm enemies, disarm bigger enemy weapons, now throw the weapon back, is kinda lazy. I fully completed the skill tree rather early too, which was disappointing. Now here, the upgrades are crazy shit, like turn your arm into a giant spiky ball and swipe all enemies in front of you, or snatch someone up into you with a tendril and throw them like a football. I get at this point it probably sounds like I don't really like the new game, but this is far from the truth. I just found I surprisingly loved a lot of the aspects of this older Spider-Man game that I would love to see realized in modern day. Overall, breaking everything down about the new game, the main stuff was really good, the side stuff could use some work, mainly in diversity and quantity. I also did run into a few problems bug-wise, with a lot of the last enemies getting stuck in walls. I had one mission's cutscenes completely break because a truck was just sitting there in the middle of everything.
What am I looking at? No, this is better. This is better. What the fuck is
Now, Web of Shadows is painfully dated, with some of the missions within the main story being clearly put through a rule of 3 repeat to pad for time, but it's still worth a play. And as for the new Spider-Man, I do like where Insomniac has taken the character when it comes to games. Just need the gameplay of this with the creativeness of this. Oh yeah, there's DLCs. Well, Black Cat is in them and she's hot. That's basically it. See ya.